let's look at some of the features why we got this 30-year-old boat. And we're going to start with the back end of the bus. Probably one of the most important is actually the back steps here. This is vital to living aboard a boat. And I actually modified the back step here to make it even more livable. You can see that little edge there? That made such a difference when we are side to at a dock. Not that we've actually been side to a dock for at least, I don't know, 9-10 months, but you know, if we go side to a dock again, it means we can step onto the transom, onto the dock. Without that, it was quite a clamber over the side. So there's lots of things to consider with the back end of the boat when you're looking at older boats, because there are older boats that actually have full standard height transoms and you've got ladders up the back, and they're just awful to try and get back into. As a safety feature, the back end here is really important. If you've got to recover someone at sea, a low transom to get them back on board, a low transom, there's a ladder on our transom over there to get them back on board, again, is a vital piece of the puzzle. This boat, we've got these horrible stairs. Okay, they're not cool. They work and they came with the boat, but they're a pain in the butt. To have these as solid all the way steps would be much better, and that is in the future upgrading of the Mighty Ship program. Right, now let's have a look here. It's my dinghy right here next to the boarding platform. I can actually come up beside the boat, grab the side here. There it is. Hello. Easily step aboard, hook it up. Other features, where your cleats are placed on the back end. Something as simple, you can see now my dinghy is secured. I could actually reach this cleat while I was in the dinghy. Bye bye dinghy. And then now it's paintering out the back. Another really important feature of the back step is the shower, outside shower. We use this all the time, like literally every day. We don't actually shower inside the boat, so really good to have a reasonable sort of platform here to stand on so that we can actually have a decent shower, because we want to keep out of the inside up here in the tropics, because it's quite warm. You shower inside, that makes the whole boat really moist inside. We're even considering one on each side of the boat. Like, this is a very used piece of equipment. So it may not seem like much, but this is actually a part of the boat that I looked at a fair bit. I also originally wanted a boat with a walk-through transom, and because that was, you know, that's all the rage and that's super cool. But to be honest, when we're offshore, I'll pick this style of back end without the walk-through transom every day of the week, and we'll get into that shortly. While we're still in the back end here, we got the dinghy davits. The dinghy davits on this boat were not too bad. You can see the wing deck clearance here, got a little bit of height, and the dinghy davits keep the dinghy above the smashing waves most of the time. There is an upgrade that's coming to change these from stainless steel dinghy davits to carbon ones, and when I do, I'm actually going to lift the dinghy davit arrangement up even higher again. Every bit counts, because we still do get waves that bang the dinghy. The dinghy davits are crucial to be able to support solar, and having the solar over the dinghy davit is an awesome idea, because it helps stop the dinghy from filling up with rainwater, getting sunburnt. There's lots of reasons to actually have the solar over the dinghy davit. The issue with it is it's a lot of weight hanging out the back of the bus, so that's that double-edged sword, and you got to compromise the weight hanging out the back versus protecting this dinghy and all the rest of it. But this is also going to get an upgrade as well. This is evolution 3, I think, of the solar panel arch, and it's going to upgrade again. So let's keep moving into the boat, looking at the back end. The helm stations, right, they're right here. Let's talk about them. This, for me, having twin helm stations was a critical part, coming from racing boat background. When I use this helm station, I am sailing the boat. I'm not sitting out here on watch. I am sailing the boat. I have my hands on the wheel. I have my sail set. I have my winches right beside me, and the boat is being sailed. I'm not on watch or anything like that. This is where you control the boat. Okay, very different from doing a watch. You do not do a watch out here. It's just way too exposed. But that's fine. You want to be exposed when you're sailing the boat. When you have control of the boat, you need to be exposed. When you're doing a watch, you go in the cockpit there. And if you're doing a real long one, you're in the cabin there. Oh, there's a whole bunch of features in the boat to make that happen. So that's one of the things we were looking for as a critical part of the whole thing for us. These helm stations out here. Also, when I'm parking the boat, I'm in a good position to park the boat. I can see what's going on. Now let's move on to the next bit. The non-walk-through transoms. Why have I got these? Because when you are at sea and offshore, you can see how high I am, and you could see before how high it was. When you get pooped for some reason, you're stopped in the middle of the ocean and a wave comes and gets your back end, you cannot have a wave come up and into your cockpit. And there's a lot of boats, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there have had a wave that is broken, in particular over the back end of the boat, and come up the back steps through the open transom and into the cockpit. That does not happen on this boat. That was a feature that I've come to learn with this boat, and we actively use this boat for wing foiling, snorkeling, swimming, stand-up paddleboarding, dinghying. You know, we spend a lot of time at anchor doing a lot of water activities, and the lack of the walk-through transom is not an issue. Now let's also look at things like the winch positions. The headsail, primary winches and spinnaker winches are right next to the wheels. Some of the leads for spinnakers is a bit interesting because we have the square of death, which will be upgraded and got rid of. But the headsail, it leads in quite nicely, and it's in a good position close to the helms, particularly if you're on the leeward helm. And again, main sheet, winch is right beside the helm on the windward side, because we've got the A-frame thing that's on the leeward side, and everybody knows how much I hate this main sheet system. I don't need to harp on about it anymore, but that was one thing I thought would be cool on the boat when we got it, but it is not. Really don't like it, and would never ever recommend it to anyone. Yeah, the other super cool thing about this boat is the size of the cockpit. Now this cockpit is, you can see, quite big for a 42 footer, but it's got two functions. One, when we've got the anchor down, we've got to live in here, so we can fit a lot of people in here, which is super cool. But even more so is when we're sailing, it's a shared space, so it's got to be big. It's got to be big because we've got people running around pulling on winches, raising and lowering sails, and actually just making the boat function. So it's actually a very central part of the boat during the whole sailing process. And interestingly enough, it's actually quite protected because you're behind the cabin top. When we get rain, big waves and all of that sort of stuff, yeah, it comes and it breaks and it goes over the cabin top and explodes. You can actually sort of duck down and miss the bulk of it when you've got the forward cockpit type things. And you know, we obviously sail quite a few forward cockpit boats. You cop a lot of stuff and weather. You're not protected. You get rained on. If you've got to go and get a winch to ease or trim or something, you've got to go forward and you're going to eat whatever you're going into. With this aft cockpit, you've got a lot more protection. If you're in here doing a watch and you need to ease a headsail, you can come out of the doorway there, go to the winch, ease or tighten and go back in, and you can still be in your undies while you do it. If the forward cockpit things, we've I've always found you got to put foulies on generally going forward if it's a bit nasty. When we got the boat, we didn't have this fantastic thing. This is a game changer. The hard top. If you're gonna get a boat and it's got a soft top, the first modification you want to make is putting a hard top on. Absolute game changer for us, and this was the first project that I did, serious project that I did, and it's the first one I said I would do because it gave us more access to the boom. So up here, there's a game changer with the hard top. It gives us access to the boom. We didn't have this before because we had an aluminium arch here with a soft top cover and another aluminium frame thing here to hold it, and basically you couldn't get to the boom from here aft, so to close the zipper and everything was just an absolute nightmare. But now you literally just walk there and everything's at knee height, and it's really easy to get to the zipper there, zip it forward. If I have issues with the reefing, even while sailing, you're up on the roof. It's a huge platform. It's really, really safe. The whole roof is non-skid paint. None of it slippery because it's intended to be a full working surface, so the whole thing's non-skidded. Yeah, so you can unzip, work on the sails, battens. We've had battens try to self-eject it sometimes because I didn't tie the lashing properly, or the batten broke on the end, or something silly happened, and I can just stand on here, drop the boom a little bit while we're sailing and surfing down waves. I did it surfing down a wave at 17 knots, lashing a batten back in. That's a good, safe place to be. It's also good real estate for ye old solar panels. Right, then let's get to the business end of this. My instruments. There is the autopilot here. The reason it is here is because when you're on watch, you come out the door here and you push the buttons. When you're on watch and you're outside here and you're on the couch, it's right there. So when you're doing long passages, the one place you are never at is out there. There's no need to be out there because it's shady and comfortable and protected under here, and you can drive it no worries from here. And when you're sailing offshore, we are not sailing it at full wick, so the need or the urgency to have to run out to the helms is very low. But if you do have to run, it's like literally from here to there, and it's a fairly clear path through this large cockpit to get to any of these stations. We've got this central winch here that runs all of the mainsail handling controls to the mast. You look at the designs of Imoca 60s, Class 40s, any of these short-handed sailing things, they actually run from the mast through a tunnel through the cabin top down to the pit where all your clutches are, and one, sometimes two winches depending on how big and complicated the boat is, but it's basically the same layout. And the reason why it's like that is because it actually works. It means minimal amount of line running, minimum amount of friction, and the minimum amount of equipment actually to get it. And doesn't matter what tack you're on, you're always in the middle of the boat to do a sail handling maneuver. And that's fairly important, because if you're on one tack or the other, port or starboard, and you got a boom over your head, it can be a little bit dodgy. You want to be on the windward side for some reason while you're doing a reef, but you're on the leeward side. It's a bit annoying. You know, not a game changer, not a showstopper, but it's quite nice actually having it all central, and in particular the ease of it all being here. The one thing I don't like though is the way it goes over this big stainless steel drum here on the corner. Super cool, super simple, you know, no moving parts, just a friction barrel, but that means that it's friction. You know, the friction rings and everything that people seem to be putting in the systems of their boats now, and just creating lots and lots of frictions instead of using blocks. That's a bit crazy, but anyway. So the only downside to this is the amount of friction that it creates, and it does cause a little bit of wear on the ropes, because it, you know, it's constantly pulling over the polished stainless steel surface. But it works, and I ain't going to cut a great big notch in the cabin top where it's quite structural here to put sheaves in. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject. Things that I don't like about this boat is it's got a small door and you got a duct to get in there, and I can't tell you how many times I've smashed my head on that piece of teak there and it bloody hurts. But you know, that's the nature of the beast. It's really cool that I can stand in the cockpit here and I can always see over the top of the cabin top and see what's coming at us. But double-edged sword, stuff that's coming at us can come and get me. It's a very simple acrylic door, very light, but it's not very nice to use and get in and out of. Particularly it's a half door. When it's half closed, it's too narrow to get in and out of properly, and it's a bit of a pain in the butt. There is no lip here, so when we are getting plenty of water over the top of the cabin top, there's no lip up here to stop the water from actually running down here. Runs into here. I've actually created a bit of a gutter here to try and get the water to run out one side, but it comes down here and it drips, and of course it drips straight into the doorway. Not so fun, but you know, that's an upgrade that's coming. The window is a big solid window. This is going to be turned into a big slidey opening type window, so we have more airflow through here, better visibility, and just a better connection between the cockpit and the galley there, you know. So that's something we're going to have a look at, how we can best execute it, and making sure that we actually don't take any structure away from the back end here, because this window, believe it or not, actually takes quite a bit of torsional stiffness through it in the boat. And we've got to put a great big sliding window hole there. We've got to be able to make sure that, one, it won't break the new window that goes in there with the torsion that's going to be passing through it, and two, we don't make the boat any more flexible. And then there's the little window on the thing here, and that'll just be upgraded to a nicer looking window, hopefully recessed. We do have a piece of plastic cover that goes across the front here for when it's raining. Makes a huge difference and keeps a lot of the water out of the cockpit when it's raining hard, when we're at anchor. And most important of all, Sir High and Mighty in his hammock loves it under the cockpit roof.